Okay, let's take a look at our exam, and I want to go over a few things. If you go into the modules, there is a module right below Chapter 4 that says Unit 1 exam, Chapters 1, 2, 3, and part of 4. Okay, so if you click on the study guide is here. Okay, and you guys should have already seen this by now. Okay, so Chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4 through page 125 in the text. So that's what you're going to be responsible for. Part one is a multiple choice, fill in the blank. There is approximately, I think there's actually 55 multiple choice questions. Okay. Instead of taking the exam in class, you're going to take it on campus. It will be timed. You'll get 90 minutes to complete 55 multiple choice questions from chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can have it's open book. You can have your textbook open, but you got to understand that it is timed, and you only have that time to complete it. You only get one shot at it. It's just like a test that you take in class. So my suggestion would be before you open this up, before you open that class, or excuse me, that exam up to take it, that you read, that you prepare, you look over your notes, and you know where to get this information, because you have to answer those 55 multiple choice questions in 90 minutes. So if you don't have a reliable internet, if you don't have a reliable computer, then you need to make sure that you get this done before the due date. The due date is next Friday, okay, at midnight. But if you're on campus, you can go to the computer labs and you can take it there. So there's not any excuses for this, okay? If you don't get it done by the due date, then you're going to receive a 0. So that is out there. You have a week to complete it. So my suggestion would be, if you don't have reliable internet at home, or you don't have a decent computer, I wouldn't try to take it on my phone either, that you go to the computer labs at the bottom of the library or whatever, and you take it there. But you better prepare before you go to take those 55 questions, because if you don't and you run out of time, or you don't get them all answered, you're still going to miss those. Okay, so that's the warning. The rest of the stuff now is going to be due at different time. Well, it's actually going to be due later, and it's writing, and you have the ability to work on this on your own. So I want to go back to the modules here for a second, and show you that. You scroll down here. Now this is mine. It looks a little bit different than yours will, but when we get to this module, it'll be okay. All right, so there's the study guide. There's the link to the multiple choice. So once you click on that, the timer starts. Okay, you have 90 minutes to complete those 55 questions. So be prepared. Have your book up, have all of your stuff ready to go, and then make sure that you get going. Okay, you don't want to run out of time. The other two parts deal with the essays and identifies. Okay, if you click on the essay part, this assignment opens up, and these are on the study guide too. Okay, write a complete organized essay answering 2 of the following questions. Free of plagiarism, in your own words. Don't paraphrase, don't copy from the book. I know what the book says. Okay, they must be in your own words and must answer the question completely. Somebody is going to email me after this video and say, how long do they have to be? And my answer is always going to be the same. You have to answer the question. I am going to grade on content. I don't care if it takes you 5 pages to do it. You have to answer the question. These are essays, and therefore they're going to require some complex thinking. The first one, describe and discuss the Columbian Exchange. Okay, you got to tell me what the Columbian Exchange is, what's happening during the Columbian Exchange, when the Columbian Exchange is taking place, what's being exchanged, because there's lots of things, okay, that are being exchanged. And then finally, assess the impacts this exchange had on both the old and new worlds, because the Columbian Exchange impacted both. Okay, it impacted the old world through new products, new crops, new diseases even, and it impacted the new world. and it had a huge impact on the Native Americans. You got to cover all of that, and you need to be thorough. I asked you a discussion question about the Columbian Exchange. Most of you got on there and wrote an answer about the Columbian Exchange. So this should be familiar to you, and you need to make sure that you demonstrate that you have a thorough and complex knowledge of what the Columbian Exchange is. So the only way you can do that is by citing facts and by telling me all that you know. And you got to write until you get it done. The second one, compare and contrast. That's similarities and differences. Okay, the settlement of the southern colonies, that's Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, with the settlement of the New England colonies, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire. Discuss the motivation of the colonists, the role religion played in the settlement of the colonies, the economics of the region, life in the colony among the colonists. So you are looking for similarities and differences, okay, in those four major areas. Their motivation, what religion played, or what role religion played in there, the economics, what were they doing, okay, and how were they making profit, and then finally life in the colony among the colonists, okay. So differences and similarities between those two regions. You can make you a chart, put those four things in there and start trying to fill it in, but then you got to write that essay, okay, and you got to be thorough and you got to be complete. Third possibility, how did Africans first arrive in the colonies and how did they evolve from an unknown status into slaves? To do this, you got to talk about the Middle Passage. You got to talk about the labor demands, where labor is needed. You've got to talk about the evolution of slavery from essentially indentured servitude to organized, legislated racial slavery. So there is, and we talked about this, it's in one of the lectures, okay, how did slavery then impact the social and economic development of colonial America? Slavery plays a much different role in the southern colonies than it does in New England, than it does in the middle colonies, okay? So make sure that you answer that question completely. And finally, last, discuss the causes, conduct, and consequences of the French and Indian War. How did the war begin? How was it fought? What are the consequences? What impact did the British victory have on the American colonists, the British themselves, and the French who lost? Okay, and I've told you, if you watch that lecture, some of that, okay? It has a huge impact on the French because they lose, okay? But it also has a big impact on the British, who now have to govern a bigger area, and the American colonists, who now find themselves being governed by a mother country that had been absent for so long. So make sure you wrap all that up into how the French and Indian War was fought. Okay, so those are your four choices. You pick two. You write two separate essays. Okay, so you'll write, if you choose number one and number two, you'll write an essay that answers number one, and then you'll write an essay that answers number two. You can submit them on the same piece of paper, all right, or in the same whatever, in the same text box or whatever, or you can write them in a Word document. You can upload the Word document, which is the simplest thing to do, okay? But here's the deal. I'm going to go back up here to this. These answers should be free of plagiarism and should be in your own words. Do not copy and paste from the textbook. Do not copy and paste from an outside source. They will be checked by turning in for plagiarism, and a high plagiarism score will earn you a 0. So don't do it. Make your answer your own. Back to the modules. The other thing is there on the study guide, I tell you that I'm going to ask you 4 historical identifiers. Study guide tells you what that means. Okay, but if you get down here to the unit, if I can ever get here, okay, then there's one that says Unit 1 identifies. Okay, if you click on that, then I've asked you to pick 4 of the following and write a thorough historical identification using historical facts and discussing the historical significance or the importance of the item. And there are those 6 right there. Okay, so you pick 4 of those and you write them out and you submit them. Okay, So you need a good paragraph or two to get these done. Okay. So I'm actually probably going to change a few of these. So don't think that these are the ones that are up there. Make sure you click on it to, I actually used these last time. And so I'm actually going to probably change some of them. Okay. So just kind of be aware that these may be a little bit different when you get in there and click in there. Okay. So those two, if you guys notice, are not due until the 18th, and that's a Sunday. Okay, so you actually have a little bit longer to do your essays. Your multiple choice quiz comes first, or the multiple choice part of the exam comes first, and then you write your IDs and your essays, and those are due a couple of days later. Same thing applies though. Okay, they're due. You have to get them done. Okay, so excuse me. That is where your test is going to work. Okay, so I would suggest over the next week, all right, to make sure that you study, start looking over this stuff, look over your notes. If you haven't been taking notes, then that's probably a bad sign, because a lot of the stuff that we've talked about in class, you are going to be responsible for. So taking notes in your classes is one of the biggest skills that you can develop. And so if you don't have any notes to rely on, you're going to have a hard time managing all of this information. So I would suggest that you do some work over the next week and get yourself prepared for this. Okay. All right. Good luck.